Melissa, Mystery, Connie, Jones, Johnny, Images, 107 Sons of Hope, Lady Grace, Above First, Rocket. Thanks for the Gypsy. Thanks for the share, guys. It's Mystery. Well, I gotta thanks for the compliment because it's my music. This is my album Rising, a modern cantata for the world to come. Jazz worship. This is the Hebraic take on the Lord's Prayer. Oregon, thanks, Thomas Arrow. To TN for Fun. And my son is releasing an album in just a couple weeks. You're going to be blown away. It's going to change how you spend time with God. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the wicked. Iceman, deliver us from the wicked one. Father, may your name be made holy in the earth. That's the Jewish idea that we do things that make his name so regarded, that we're so holy, that we behave in a holy way, that we literally sanctify his name in the way we behave. Isn't that amazing? In heaven. Greg! Just made my day, dude. Thanks for the share. Are we busy now? Give us our portion. Give us our portion of bread each day. And forgive our debt. Hey, hey. I'm cheering you on, bro. Cheering Greg Harvey on. As we forgive those indebted to us. As guys, and we all have to just get all the snacks and drinks and cigars ready for debate tonight. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the wicked one. For thine is the kingdom and the glory and the splendor. Homeschool duty done! Yes, we got to talk about that on your show if you ever want. For yours is the kingdom, power and splendor, forever and ever and ever. Yours is the kingdom, the power and splendor, forever and ever and ever. Yours is the kingdom, the power and splendor, forever and ever and ever. This is my favorite part, play on the guitar. We pray in the merit and the virtue of our Master Yeshua. That's a Jewish concept. The idea that when you're praying in the merit and virtue of someone that has led you closer to God. Isn't that an interesting concept? The Catholics kind of do it in regard to praying through or to saints, but it's actually a Hebraic idea of so honoring the sage that brought you close to the reality of God that you're praying in the merit and virtue of what they've done. And of course, we take that to the next level, into the level of the authority that we carry in the name of Yeshua, to pray in his name, his authority, and as those delegated to carry that. Isn't that kind of cool? Anyways, all right. I have an object lesson for you guys today. I want to talk to you about how it's really hard to win when you always expect to lose. And this has become sort of a drumbeat of mine. Oh, and by the way, before I go any farther, I did a killer scope yesterday on Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur and the Feast of Trumpets, which we had a few days ago, and upcoming the Feast of Tabernacles, they are the seasons at which we are to expect the return of our Messiah, Yeshua. And so if you don't understand what's happening in the fall festivals, it's not just about some kind of generalized prophetic word that you get, the shepherd's rod word. It's not just about the changing of the year and getting a new number and a new meaning of the Hebrew year. It is weighted with revelation and instruction. The festivals are like cue drops. put that in your pipe and smoke it. I'm not kidding you. The festivals, the seven festivals of the Messiah can carry H drops, heaven drops, because there are layers and layers and layers of intel in the festivals, the Moedim, that teach us about the plan. Where we go one, we go all. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. So if you don't know and get the Q drops, the H drops, the J drops that are in the festivals, you are behind. I'm just telling you. So if you missed my scope on the Feast of Trumpets, it was called It's a Blast. You can go back and find it if you click on my profile on Periscope, or you go to my website, or my timeline, or Facebook. And yesterday's scope on Yom Kippur, full of heaven drops about what to expect. All right, you guys, here's the deal. We are going to, hey, welcome, J-Art. We are going to discuss the dude in your head who expects you to lose. And I want to tell you, this is a little bit of a rant of mine, because we were taught to lose. We were taught to go away quietly. We were taught to not expect anything. In fact, it was part of our theology. Our theology was that we were gonna recede, and the darkness is gonna come, and we're gonna read Revelation, and then we're just gonna see how bad it gets until we get sucked out of here. Giant second sound. Like the guy who ran for president. Remember him? He talked about how NAFTA would be a giant second sound, pulling the jobs out of America. Well, in any event, we've all been waiting for a giant sucking sound to suck the body of Christ out of the earth while Satan takes over, and we're just supposed to kind of slink away. And so every time something terrible happens, there's been this mixture of happiness about how bad it's getting, because, you know, the more we lose, the closer we're coming to when Jesus comes back. And that's really what the Christian mindset has been about the season that we're in, and about ruling and reigning with Christ. Besides which, the deal is that we also were taught to lose by a complicit propaganda media, and by propaganda corporations, and propaganda-based leaders and politicians who are bought and sold, who act, and things that were kind of orchestrated behind the scenes to make it look like we had a real honest-to-goodness fight between good and evil, or left and right, or this value versus that value. And you know what? It wasn't. So many things were engineered and orchestrated so there would be a controlled demolition of our values and our confidence and our faith, and there would be a takeover of the left and a globalist thing. We have been part of a controlled demolition. Over time, they got us out. A lot of politicians raised money on us so that we thought maybe we could fight things we don't like, but really it's been predetermined. People in positions of power, in political office, in media, in culture, and arts, predetermined. And when you lose that much over the long haul, you learn to lose, and you learn to expect to lose. So I want to tell you an example of why we have to deal with that, and that is the dude in your head and my head. And chances are he's buried pretty deep, and you may not even recognize where he lives in your thinking. But this is essential for the fear-free life. You got to recognize when you're dealing with the dude in your head who expects you to lose, because that's going to affect whether you can actually win anything or not. This last week, and in a situation that I'm monitoring, let me see how best to describe this. Some friends of mine, in a struggle over values and over the takeover of an institution, stood up to say, no, not so fast. We don't want those values here. And they fought and said, we need to have a voice. We're not buying into the narrative that people are using now to insert their agendas into the institutions that are affecting our community. And so there was a bit of an uprising, and it was very successful. And the outcome was that now there's pushback, and now there's people showing up, kingdom people showing up to contribute into this community and saying, we want to have a voice. We're not buying the narrative. We're not buying what you're selling, and here's why. Well, as things happen in communities, sometimes there's misunderstandings, and there are also machinations that happen around in the back. And so there was a misunderstanding, and one fellow immediately jumped to the conclusion Oh my gosh, they've done it again. They've done it again. Those people that said we could have a seat at the table, they've done an end around. And they really played us. And this just shows that we can't trust those people because see, it always happens this way. And this was the interpretation of the information available was yet again, we're screwed. We're screwed because they outran us, outworked us, they plotted behind the scenes. Very kind of well, a very negative thinking and an assumption of loss. Yet again, we're getting screwed. These people outwork us, they outman us, they have more money, they've infiltrated our institutions, and so now here we are. We were promised a seat at the table, and we didn't get the seat at the table. So blah 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 blah. And I wake up to a little window into this, and I see the immediate assumption based on limited information that we're going to get screwed again. We're going to lose again. Well, despite the fact that it's not what I usually do with my Sunday nights, I did a little research. And I researched the situation, and I found out that the information that this negative Nancy type person was going with was very partial and not fully orbed, and not taking into account other statements that were made and other public information. But this rabble rouser who expects to lose wanted to get out there and be out front in the crowd telling everyone else that yet again we're going to get screwed. And my friends, this is a really sad mental state for many people who are conservative, who are Christian, who have some form of abuse or background. It's this idea, because there has been a controlled demolition and there has been manipulation in our media, and we have actually been programmed to lose, and there have been a lot of these things going on, and we've been played. But we've been played in here more than anywhere else. Because no matter what's going on out there, we still have a choice to frame everything that happens to us from a position of a strength and authority and victory. And the idea that, hey, you know what? I might have got my clock clean this time, but I'm not going away. And there's a reinvention. I can always come back and reinvent and reassert and look for other people who are ready to win in a different season. Do you see that? This is the concept of resurrection. Jesus goes to the cross willingly. Well, Alex, I'm going to lose. I'm totally a loser now. He's such a loser, man. And there was a plan behind that to create a resurrection and to create a group of disciples who knew how to win. Because at the time of the resurrection and afterwards, they had learned to lose. They were losers. They were disappointed. And they pretty much just expected they were going to get their clock clean, even though he had given them drops. There's a plan, there's a plan, there's a plan, there's a plan. They had to experience a resurrection life, and they had to go out and heal the sick and start casting out demons and taking back the ground before they really believed in the resurrection life. And Yeshua had to come back and appear to them numerous times over a 40-day period to kind of like reprogram their minds to the winning of the resurrection and the power and the life of God, so they could go out and take the earth. Well, my friends, I'm finding that many of us who've lived fear-free lives, and many of us who are of a certain political persuasion, we learn to lose, and we learn to think like losers, and we learn to expect to lose, because every time we get up, we're shocked again that the media is not reflecting our values. They're not telling the truth. There's censorship. There's intimidation. And it's vile, and it's blatant, and it's ugly, and there's bullying. And so we have a mentality, because of all these reinforced things in our own history, and it's very tempting to think like a loser. And it's very tempting to, like the dude in your head who learned to lose and expects to lose, run wild. And it's very subtle. This is why it's so powerful that God has allowed us to have a national leader who doesn't think like a loser, and is teaching us how to win, and how not to be a wuss, and how not to be a snowflake, and how not to care what people think, how to get the job done, and how to be hard-headed when that's necessary, to not back down, We've needed to see that. We've needed heroes again. We've needed epic heroes to believe in so we can become epic heroes. But in this concept, in this situation I'm talking to you about in this community, it really shocked me because I went back and I said, hey, before you decide you've lost, let me give you this information that I think we can interpret differently. Do you see what God is doing over here? Do you see how God has strategically placed someone here? Do you see how they have influence? Can you trust that what you can't see, maybe there's something at work that there are other people, or do you immediately have to jump to the loser position and the bitter position that we're getting screwed again, that we're never going to get our side out, there's not going to be any indictments, you know, we're gonna lose the election, there's going to be voter fraud, we're screwed, it's terrible, Jesus is coming back, God is judging the nation, lose, 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 lose. That is a very very deeply ingrained mindset in the Christian world. And we actually think it's a virtue to think like losers. Because humble, downtrodden, faith-filled, I hope God, I just hope. And to think that, yes, we have to lose to get Jesus to come back and rescue us, don't we? Don't we have to all lose, because Satan's got to come and got to take everything over. And don't you see how it is? And, and we'll all be sent to the camps and the vaccinations and all these things are possible. But what I'm saying is that we're practically celebrating all this losing so we can just wait like victims for Jesus to come and get us. So sick, because the Bible says he's coming for a bride without spot or blemish. The Bible says the earth is groaning and waiting for sons and daughters to rise up and take our place and to bring justice and righteousness, that his name is sanctified in the earth and made holy. God has says that he's not coming until there are multiplied billions of souls ready to see him. God has said to occupy until he comes. He said that we trample over serpents and scorpions and all the power of the enemy. Jesus' team is not a losing team, and yet we have been taught, sometimes by church, definitely by media, definitely by politicians and people behind the scenes who were playing a game we didn't have the rules to. The kabuki theater of cultural manipulation and mind control. They taught us to lose, to think like losers, and to feel so proud of ourselves for being so faith-filled in such darkness as we hang on by the skin of our teeth, just waiting for Jesus to rescue us. And almost celebrating every terrible thing that happens. Because he must be closer. Because it's so much like the Antichrist. Guys, that's paranoid and that's sick thinking. Jesus did not leave a bunch of victims. Jesus is not about creating and recreating victims. He's creating victors and healers. And if we expect to lose, there's no way you can see it any differently. So in this situation, I responded to the person and I said, hey, let's reframe this. They come back and say, well, because this and this and this, I honestly think that this is just, this just shows bad faith on this person's part. And this just shows this, and I have very little hope in this process. I think this process just demonstrates we can't trust these people. Now, in this particular situation, maybe some of that kind of those machinations have gone on in the past, but I will say that had a lot to do with who stepped up with a winning attitude to speak into a culture that they disagreed with. And very often, the people who stepped up were negative, people who expected to lose, angry, bitter, paranoid, thinking conspiratorial, like everyone's out to get us. So when they went to be involved in community activities, were they positive? Were they winning? Were they resilient? Were they resurrection people? Or were they just bitter Republicans? And loser Christians. Unfortunately, that's been the tone very often of community service on the side of conservative thinkers. But my friends, those days are over. We have winning ideas, winning thoughts, but let's leave politics. Jesus has winning ideas, winning thoughts. And he supersedes all this to say that we can go into situations without a bent toward an agenda and say, I'm a problem solver. I want to solve this problem. And this person who could not see past losing has no ability to discern all the ways in which God is sending problem solvers into this particular community who are being given favor but aren't out publicizing. They're being wise and thoughtful and building relationships and contributing. But all this other person can see is, we're going to lose again. They've screwed us again. That is something that we have to deal very fiercely with in the Patriot community, because we've been mentally and emotionally abused, and there's been mind games played on the American people to teach us to be embarrassed about who we are, to hate our history, to hate our founders, to interpret everything from that set of glasses instead of the set of glasses that understands humanity and understands the leap toward freedom and economic wellness that our country brought into the earth, and the opportunity and the way to leverage up from that into more equality, more equity, more opportunity for everybody, not by tearing everything down, and not by teaching patriots to feel embarrassed and ashamed and to hate ourselves and to expect to lose and apologize for who we are and all of that stuff. And for you and me living the fear-free life, we need to really deal very, very intentionally with every expectation that we're going to lose again. Here we are losing. See, I'm so disappointed. Yeah, right. Jesus is coming back, but I guess we're going to have to get our butts kicked for another 100 years or so. Yeah. No, we won't have influence because those people are always so much more powerful now. We have so much more money, and they have the media on their side. And these people are bullies, so we're going to lose, and it's going to be so hard. It's going to be so hard. Or just in your family, well, or your marriage, when you start having conversations, but you stop because you're like, I know what he's going to say. He's going to say this, and then I'm going to say this, and then he's going to say this, and then nothing's really going to change because I know where this one is going. Guys, that happens in relationships and family all the time. Just when you start to contribute, just when you start to get issues on the table, just when you start to deal with things, immediately you remember when you lost before, you remember when you got stuck before, you remember the wheels came off before, and the next thing you know, you've had an entire conversation in your head about, well, I'll bet they're going to say this. And I bet I'm going to say, and then. So there's no point in even dealing with it. We're going to get screwed again. And that is so deep. It's embarrassing and shameful. That is so deep in the Christian mindset. And it creates incredible passivity. And it's time that we said, okay, so I'm going to stick my neck out, and it's going to be messy and uncomfortable, but I'm going to show up with solutions. I'm going to be a solution giver. And I'm going to keep showing up, and I'm going to keep bringing my gifts, and I'm going to keep finding a different and new way to approach this. And I'm going to hang out with winners, and I'm going to hang out with people who can help me see what I can't see. And I'm going to learn how to take back what's taken from me. I'm going to learn how to overcome this particular set of pitfalls in these conversations. I'm going to learn how to show up in my community and in my schools. I'm going to learn how to speak my mind. I spent 50-something years learning to lose culturally, theologically in many ways. Yeah, my winning is I'm saved. I'm going to go to heaven. For me to die is gain. So whatever happens. We have been taught a theology of just hanging out and losing here so Jesus can come and rescue us. It's going to be hard. Suffering. How about taking care of business? How about showing up and being and learning to be irrepressible? Yeah, you knocked me down last week, but I'm back. Yeah, you drove over my sign, but I'm putting 2 up tomorrow. And I got more. You go ahead and give it a try. Go ahead, because I'm coming back. This is the difference between winners and losers. Winners just don't, they keep getting up, right? And this changes your brain, this changes your heart. So if you've got expectations inside you that show up when you're about ready to risk, or you're about ready to try something, or you do risk and then you get pushback, and your immediate response to any pushback jumps to, here it is again, we're going to get screwed. I know how this plays out. You got a problem, and you got to deal with it at the root. That's not how Jesus thinks. Jesus says we're taking it back. I'm taking the earth back. Want to join me? One relationship, one new pattern, one new habit, one new contribution, one increasing in concentric circle of risk and influence, one different kind of conversation at a time, every day, over and over and over and over and over, until you can't get me to lose. I refuse to lose. Do you refuse to lose? Let's just say it today, I refuse to lose. Can you say that? Say it with me. I refuse to lose. And this is not about ego, because I know how to let someone else shine and be right when I'm wrong. In fact, I had the habit of always telling my husband when he's right. When we're in a thing, we're like, no, you said, or I said, or no, that won't fit. That's the wrong part for this, or no, that thing won't work. That idea won't work. And he'll come back and try it again, and he'll be right. I always make myself say, yes, you were right about that. Boy, yes, thank you. You were right. I was wrong. And that's how I win. I don't mind being wrong about something. I just don't want to be a loser. It's the difference between being wrong and losing. I refuse to lose because I don't have to. Because in my humility, in my obedience, in your humility, your obedience, your risk, your willingness to admit when you don't have it just right, and yet coming back with still bringing your gifts and affirming others, you win. You win. You win. So take a good hard listen to the dude in your head who expects you to lose. And when that comes up, and when you reframe what's happening around you, whether it's, well, the election, well, the media, well, the indictments aren't happening, nothing's happening, and this and that, and I'm always, and they never. Knock it off. Right now. Right this very little minute, you knock that right off. The dude in your head who expects you to lose has got to go. And that happens because you verbally begin to say, I refuse to lose. I refuse to lose my community. I refuse to lose my family. I could lose my ego a little bit, but then I'm free. I refuse to let the situation that didn't turn out exactly the way I hoped turn me into a loser. Because I'm going back for another bite at the apple, another way with another person. I'm going to share with you one example, and then I'm gonna set you free. First of all, by the way, people have been doing my Subscribe Star. I didn't get the notifications, and I thought nobody's subscribing. Guys, I got some great subscribers, and I am getting ready to launch a group for people who subscribe at $25 a month. A really power-packed mentoring group with me. So if you want to do that, go to subscribestar.com. Check me out. $25 a month to be in a mentoring group. $100 a month, and you get a one-on-one coaching with me that, you know what? Dilly charges way, 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 way more than that for an hour of his time. I am cheap. I mean, in all the most classic ways. But there's some other things, and I've got a small mastermind group I'm putting together at a different level of sponsorship. But I'm so thankful. Thank you. You know what I'm thankful for is for the people I'm going to get to work with personally. I love that. And I love seeing the growth that happens when people invest in their growth by opening up their resources to say, I value this. And also, I have to respond to a couple of you who came in at the beginning level just to say this is beneficial to me and you want it to be there. I'm going to respond to you, and I want to thank you because that actually is going to benefit you in the economy of investment. It's really going to help you in your process. I believe that. That's what I've seen in my life. Now, for me, so subscribestar.com, Julie Lavender, thank you. Very encouraged. Now, one last thing I want to tell you. I had a conversation with someone I was mentoring this week, and this person said, but what if I never see the people who've hurt me most own it or deal with it, and I never really get to change things with that relationship because it's just too broken? In other words, am I just going to lose because they'll never see it and I can't change it, and I'm just going to lose forever? Do I have to just resign myself that this is just... And I said, no, you don't, because God has a way of doing things beyond all you can ask or think, even in the situations with the most damaged people in your life. It'll shock you by the time this whole thing's wound up in your history. But also, God has a way of bringing to you people who are surprisingly like, and situations that remind you so much of the last time you got your little face ground into the dust and you lost and you felt like a loser and your plans failed and you lost this, you lost that, the other thing, and there was unhappy outcomes in your community and in your business and in your marriage. God has a way of circling into your sphere situations that called do-overs. And he will bring surprisingly similar situations and opportunities your way so you can have a different outcome and change the world in astonishing outcomes. And then you'll find, on top of all that, as you change and you reframe who you are, don't be surprised if the most painful losing situations that you don't think can ever be reconciled actually have a way of morphing into something that are extraordinary in the kingdom of God. But this walk is not for losers. This walk is for people who know how to win every day. Win hearts, win minds, win games, win in situations, winning strategies, victorious actions. All right, go do something that scares you, like choose to win